It's 1985. Steve Jobs walks out of Apple's headquarters for the last time. He's just been fired from the company he built in his parents' garage. At 30 years old, he's a millionaire who feels like a complete failure. The tech world writes him off. His story, they think, is over. They were wrong. Over the next 25 years, Jobs doesn't just come back, he changes the world. Not once, not twice, but 7 times. This is the story of the greatest comeback in business history, and the man who proved that innovation isn't about technology. It's about understanding what people want before they even know they want it. Steve Jobs is born on February 24, 1955, in San Francisco. His biological parents give him up for adoption. Paul and Clara Jobs, a machinist and an accountant, raise him in Mountain View, California, right in the heart of what will become Silicon Valley. Jobs isn't a great student. He's bored by traditional education. In 1972, he enrolls at Reed College in Portland but drops out after just 1 semester. His parents have spent their life savings on tuition. He feels guilty, but college feels pointless. Here's where the story gets interesting. Jobs doesn't leave campus. He stays, sleeping on friends' floors, returning Coke bottles for food money, and he sits in on classes that actually interest him. One class changes everything: calligraphy. He learns about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the space between letter combinations, about what makes great typography beautiful. It seems completely useless. But 10 years later, when Jobs designs the Macintosh, it becomes the first computer with beautiful typography. He later says, "If I had never dropped in on that calligraphy class, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts." In 1974, Jobs takes a job at Atari, the video game company. He's difficult to work with. He doesn't shower, he's arrogant. He tells everyone their work is garbage. Atari eventually puts him on the night shift so he doesn't have to interact with other employees. But at Atari, Jobs meets the man who will change his life, Steve Wozniak. Wozniak, everyone calls him Woz, is a brilliant engineer. He loves building things. Jobs loves selling things. It's the perfect partnership. In 1976, Wozniak builds a personal computer in his spare time. Most computers then fill entire rooms and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Woz's computer fits on a desk. Jobs sees something Wozniak doesn't. This isn't just a hobby project. This is a revolution. On April 1, 1976, they found Apple Computer Company in Jobs' parents' garage. Jobs is 21 years old. The Apple one is basically a circuit board. You have to add your own keyboard, monitor, and case. They sell 200 units at $666.66 each. But Jobs is already thinking bigger. In 1977, they launched the Apple II. This is a complete computer, ready to use right out of the box. It has color graphics. It runs spreadsheet software. It becomes the first mass-market personal computer. This is Jobs' first innovation. He doesn't invent the personal computer. He makes it accessible to normal people, not just engineers and hobbyists. By 1980, Apple goes public. Steve Jobs, at 25 years old, is worth $200 million. He's on magazine covers. He's the future. He's unstoppable. In 1984, Apple launches the Macintosh with the most famous commercial in television history. During the Super Bowl, 96 million people watch an ad directed by Ridley Scott, the director of Blade Runner. A woman throws a hammer at Big Brother's face. The message: IBM is Big Brother. Apple is the revolution. The Macintosh itself is revolutionary. It's the first computer with a graphical user interface that normal people can understand. Instead of typing commands, you point and click with a mouse. You see windows, icons, folders, things that look like objects from the real world. Jobs doesn't invent the graphical interface. Xerox does in their research lab, But Xerox doesn't know what to do with it. Jobs sees it once and immediately understands. This is the future of computing. This is his second innovation, making computers intuitive. Technology should adapt to humans, not the other way around. But there's a problem. Steve Jobs is brilliant. He's also, by almost every account, terrible to work with. He's a perfectionist who screams at employees. He calls their work garbage to their faces. He divides people into two categories, geniuses and idiots. There's no middle ground. Engineers work 90-hour weeks. Some have nervous breakdowns. In 1983, Jobs recruits John Sculley, the CEO of Pepsi, to run Apple. Jobs asks him a question that becomes legendary. Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life, or do you want to come with me and change the world? Sculley joins Apple. It's the beginning of the end. Jobs and Sculley clash constantly. Jobs wants to keep pushing forward, spending whatever it takes. Sculley wants profitability and stability. The Apple board has to choose between them. In May 1985, the board sides with Sculley. Steve Jobs is removed from all operational duties. He's 30 years old, fired from the company he created. He later describes it as devastating. I was a very public failure. I even thought about running away from the valley, but something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did. In September 1985, Jobs resigns from Apple completely. He sells all but one share of his Apple stock. The tech world assumes his story is over. They're spectacularly wrong. Jobs immediately starts a new company, NeXT Computer. His goal is to build computers for universities and researchers, machines more powerful than anything on the market. NeXT computers are gorgeous. They're black cubes perfectly designed. They have object-oriented programming and incredible graphics. They're also incredibly expensive, $500 when they launch, nearly $10,000 later. NeXT is a commercial failure. The computers are too expensive, too limited. The company sells maybe 50,000 machines total. Most people consider NeXT another failure for Jobs. But here's what nobody realizes at the time. The NeXT operating system is extraordinary. It's so advanced that in 1990, a researcher at CERN named Tim Berners-Lee uses a NeXT computer to create the World Wide Web. The first web browser, the first web server, both run on NeXT. That operating system will become the foundation of everything Apple builds for the next 3 decades. While running NeXT, Jobs makes another move that seems crazy. In 1986, he buys the computer graphics division of Lucasfilm for $10 million. George Lucas is going through a divorce and needs cash. Jobs renames the company Pixar. For years, Pixar bleeds money. Jobs keeps it alive with his own fortune. They make short films and expensive computer animation software. Jobs invests $50 million of his own money. Most people think he's throwing it away. Then, in 1995, Pixar releases Toy Story, the first fully computer-animated feature film. It's a massive hit. It makes $373 million worldwide. 1 week after Toy Story opens, Pixar goes public. In a single day, Steve Jobs becomes a billionaire again, not from computers, but from a cartoon cowboy and a plastic spaceman. This is his third innovation, proving that computers can create art. Pixar doesn't just make movies, it transforms cinema. Every animated film today follows the path Pixar created. By 1996, Jobs runs NeXT and owns Pixar. He's successful again, but he's not done. While Jobs builds NeXT and Pixar, Apple is dying. Without Jobs, Apple has lost its way. Microsoft dominates with Windows. Apple's market share drops to 4%. The company loses $1 billion in 1997. Bankruptcy looks inevitable. In December 1996, Apple makes a desperate decision. They buy NXT for $429 million. The real reason isn't the technology. It's Steve Jobs. Apple needs the one person who might save it. Jobs returns as an advisor. Within months, he maneuvers the board into making him interim CEO. The interim lasts 14 years. Jobs makes immediate, brutal changes. He kills 70% of Apple's products. No more printers. No more Newton. He focuses on 4 products: a desktop and laptop for consumers, a desktop and laptop for professionals. That's it. In 1997, he does something shocking. He makes a deal with Microsoft. Apple's enemy invests $150 million. Jobs announces it at a conference with Bill Gates' face on a giant screen behind him. The Apple faithful boo, but Jobs knows Apple needs time. In 1998, Apple launches the iMac. It's a translucent, colorful computer that looks like it came from the future. It has no floppy drive. Jobs says floppy disks are dead, and he's right. The iMac comes in colors called Bondi Blue, Strawberry, Lime, Grape. Critics say it's a toy. Customers disagree. Apple sells 800,000 iMacs in the first 5 months. It's the fastest-selling computer in Apple's history. This is his 4th innovation, making technology beautiful. Computers don't have to be beige boxes. They can be objects you want on your desk. The Think Different campaign launches around the same time. The ads show Einstein, Picasso, Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr. The message is clear. Apple is for people who change the world. In 2001, Jobs unveils the iPod. It's a white rectangle that holds 1,000 songs. 1,000 songs in your pocket, Jobs says. The iPod costs $399, expensive for an MP3 player. But it works seamlessly with iTunes. You buy songs for 99 cents. Everything just works. This is his 5th innovation, making digital music mainstream. The iPod doesn't just play music, it changes how humans experience music. By 2007, Apple has sold 100 million iPods. Then comes January 9, 2007. Jobs walks onto the stage at Macworld. He says, "Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone." He's not exaggerating. The iPhone has no keyboard, no stylus, just a screen. You touch it directly. You pinch to zoom, you swipe to scroll. It's a phone, an iPod, and an internet device in one. When Jobs demonstrates it, the crowd gasps. He scrolls through contacts with his finger. He zooms into a photo. He opens a web page that looks like an actual web page, not the stripped-down mobile sites from other phones. The iPhone launches in June 2007. People camp outside stores for days. Apple sells 6 million iPhones in the first year. This is his 6th innovation, the smartphone. Jobs doesn't invent the smartphone, BlackBerry and others exist, but he makes it something everyone wants. The iPhone creates the App Store, which creates an entirely new economy. Millions of developers, billions of downloads, trillions of dollars. Every smartphone today is a response to the iPhone. In 2010, Apple launches the iPad. Critics call it just a big iPhone. Apple sells 15 million in the first year. It creates the tablet computing category overnight. This is his 7th innovation, the tablet. Jobs proves that between a phone and a laptop, there's room for something new. In 2003, Jobs is diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He initially tries to treat it with alternative medicine, diet changes, acupuncture. He later admits this was a mistake. By the time he gets surgery, the cancer has spread. Jobs keeps working. He gets thinner. His health declines visibly, but he keeps doing product launches, keeps driving Apple forward. On August 24, 2011, he resigns as CEO. He names Tim Cook as his successor. 6 weeks later, on October 5, 2011, Steve Jobs dies. He's 56 years old. The world mourns. People leave flowers and candles outside Apple stores. President Obama calls him one of the greatest American innovators. Bill Gates says, "The world rarely sees someone who has had the profound impact Steve has had." So what did Steve Jobs actually change? 7 industries. 1. Personal computers. The Mac proved computers could be for everyone. 2. Animated movies. Pixar created an entirely new art form. 3. Music. The iPod and iTunes changed how we buy and listen to music. 4. Mobile phones. The iPhone created the smartphone era. 5. Tablets. The iPad proved there was space between phones and laptops. 6. Retail. Apple stores became the most profitable stores per square foot in the world. 7. Digital publishing. iBooks and the iPad changed magazines, newspapers, and books. But here's the deeper truth about Jobs' innovation. He didn't invent most of these technologies. Xerox invented the graphical interface. MP3 players existed before the iPod. Smartphones existed before the iPhone. Tablets existed before the iPad. Jobs' real genius was understanding what people wanted before they knew they wanted it. He took complicated technology and made it simple. He took ugly technology and made it beautiful. He understood that technology isn't about specs and features. It's about how it makes you feel. He was famous for saying, "People don't know what they want until you show it to them." Steve Jobs wasn't perfect. He abandoned his first daughter for years. He parked in handicapped spots. He could be cruel to employees. He made business decisions that hurt people. But he was human, and that's what makes his story powerful. He got fired from his own company at 30 and came back to make it the most valuable corporation on earth. He failed spectacularly and succeeded even more spectacularly. He understood that setbacks aren't endings, they're setups for something greater. Jobs ended his famous Stanford commencement speech in 2005 with 3 words: "Stay hungry, stay foolish." He stayed hungry his entire life. He kept pushing, kept building, kept demanding more from himself and everyone around him. And in doing so, he didn't just change technology. He changed everything. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos.